Hey, what's up guys, it's Caleb here. So today I want to talk about the differences between working for a design studio versus working for a startup. So if you're a product designer and you graduated from school, or if you follow my advice and study by yourself and now you're ready to get a job. So usually you'll find two type of companies in the market. So one is the design studio that are looking for designer to help them out with their projects, or another type is like startup basically just hiring designer to work on their products. So what kind of what are these two type of companies and which one should you go for? So I'm gonna list some pros and maybe you can kind of think about it and see what kind of thing do you want to get yourself into. They will kind of yield a better outcome as well, like for the long term. So let's talk about the working for a design studio part first. So I'm going to talk about the pros. So if you work like me myself, I've been working like for my career, right? Like most of my time, I would say like almost like 80% or 90% of my time, or maybe 80% is actually working for a studio. So I even have a lot of experience working for a startup before. So I'm going to talk about the pros of working for a studio. So you got to get to, like if you work in a studio, so how you function is basically you just get a lot of clients coming to the studios and then they will assign this project to their designers. So you get to work on a bunch of projects, and especially, like if your studio is really high class or maybe really popular, then you may get to work with like some really big firms as well, like Google, Facebook, which you would normally really hard to get into if you think about like getting hired by Facebook or Google, right? You would usually be very hard. But if you work for studios, sometimes you may have a chance to work on this kind of big project and put some of this in your portfolio. So that may be really good of like building a portfolio, which link to my second point, second pros of working for a design studio, which is you can build up your portfolio really quickly. Because in a studio, usually in 1 year time frame, it depends on like what kind of studio you work in, but like for most of the studio you may stay in a project for, let's say, like 2 to 3 months or maybe a quarter or maybe a bit more than a quarter. So then let's say 1 year you may have like 3 to 4 big projects that you can put on your portfolio and show people what you can do. So working for a studio definitely is a very good way to quickly build your portfolio, and eventually maybe you can jump between studios, and if you get more project and people like your work. So that's the second point. You can build up your portfolio really quickly. And also remember, a designer value is all about the portfolio that he has. So it can really like push up your value really quickly if you work for a studio with high profile clients. And the third point is you don't really get bored that much. That may be connected to working for a startup as well, but like for working for a studio, you can jump between project. Even like sometime for the studio that I used to work at, right? I can like I can talk to my project manager and say like, dude, like I've been working on this project for a few months now. I really want to get a fresh start and like start thinking about different problems. It's all about problem solving, right? So problem solving, right? So if you're thinking about the same thing again and again over the couple of months, then you may want to like get the juice up and refresh yourself in something, work on something else. So like I usually don't get bored because I can just work on a lot of things and keep thinking about different problems. So like if you hate working on the same thing again and again and again, I think studio is a very good choice because, man, you just I was really enjoying like doing different things. The fourth point is again, like with all this, with all the kind of like pros I talked about, and eventually like based on the portfolio and everything, usually it's quite easier for you to get another job, or people start reaching out to you because of the stuff that you've been doing. If you keep pushing, if you keep posting this kind of stuff online, and you eventually will get noticed by other people. That's what happened to me as well. So I think personally, if you have more work on your portfolio, you can show people in high quality work, then definitely you will be much more easier to be noticed by other people. Either eventually, if you want to like start your own business, being a designer, being a freelance designer, or starting your own agency, I think the products that or the project that you have on your portfolio, that's gonna really help you for the long run. So easier for you to look for a new job. So on the other side, let's talk about working for a startup now. So what's the good thing about working for a startup? I think there's a lot of good things about working for a startup as well. So the first pro is you can be much more hands-on in everything. Basically, how a startup is different from a design agency. So like a startup, you will have to think about a lot of other problems. So how does a product get built? When do we build this thing? What kind of thing do we need in this kind of features, right? So like all the feature thinking, there's a lot of like roadmap planning, and then like you plan for the roadmap, and then you build this, and then you design this, and you hand it off to your developer. So the whole process of like how a person build a startup, then you can really learn a lot of things in this kind of settings. Like like the roadmap, I would say a lot of time you're probably gonna spend on like planning for the project than actually designing. So a lot of communication between team. If that's what you like to do, then that'll be perfect for you. So a lot of like really thinking, planning stuff. And the second thing is, I think it's sort of related to the first thing. Is like you can really experience the startup grind, right? So the funding stages, when did the startup get funded? How does money come in? How much do people actually pay for the project? Pay for the product? How do you sell the product? So you can experience a lot of like this kind of internal thing, which you would not be able to experience when you're just working for a design agency and then just start designing project for the client, because like project for the client is really small part. So let's say like this kind of people, they're in-house product designer, they will figure out this whole plan, and then they would maybe like outsource it to a design company, and then tell that designer to, hey, you have to work on this feature, and just send them a spec, right? But the designer in the startup, they're gonna figure out this whole entire thing. So the third good point is, usually you'll get paid more if you work for a startup. Like your paycheck is going to be more and higher pay. So like, why would I say that is, if you can go on like angel.co, you can really compare about like the salary between designers, and some you can really see like some startup, if they're really well funded and they have just a lot of money coming in, they can easily pay a designer 150K or even higher. But you will rarely see a startup, a design studio pay that much money for a designer, for a like just a designer working on project, because usually a design studio is not that, like, it doesn't have like that much of an explosion in terms of like revenue for their product. So it's really tough. So usually you'll get a lot more pay for, I would say maybe like 20 to 50% higher pay than a designer working for a studio. But if money is what you want to go for, definitely like think about working for a startup. And also, I didn't even mention, like, working for a startup, you can also take equity in the internal stock. So think about initially, if you design for Facebook in the initial phase, right? You will be so freaking rich right now. And a lot of startup right now, especially this year, they're going on IPO. So once when a stock go IPO, then boom, like your equity in the company is gonna explode, right? So one of my friends is not a designer, but he's a developer. He worked for a startup, and right now I think his stock is estimated to be $6 million. So think about that. He only stayed there for like 3 years. So think about that. So the last good point about working for a startup is that, like, usually you can be a bit more laid back, because like a product has cycle. So sometimes when they have new feature, then the designer is really busy building those. But when all of those features is built, and usually a designer is more laid back and like thinking about, I don't know, I don't really get to experience that part like a lot, but I think in general you can be more laid back and chill if you work for a startup, because there's not always going to be a lot of design work to do. So that's my kind of my thoughts and opinions on this two things. It really depends on which path you're gonna go for, but you can think about it. I think both is fine if you're a product designer, and both can build up your reputations or your work eventually. But one may be faster than the other, so you can really think about that. And yeah, let me know if you like this kind of content. I may talk about like what is it like to like day-to-day job working in a design studio versus working in a startup like later. But yeah, let me know if you like this kind of stuff. I may be able to talk about it more, and give you a thumbs up as well, subscribe to my channel, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Cheers.